Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's ODTN call. Thanks for joining. As usual, we have a few subjects to talk about, especially today. There will be a status and overview of TAPI from a Telefonica perspective, thanks to Arturo. First of all, I just want to take a quick moment to say that ONF, since given the current situation with the coronavirus, we had decided to cancel the ONF Connect event that was supposed to be held in September. Instead of that event, we are starting a Spotlight series. This Spotlight series is a continued series of remote presentations that will span over a number of weeks. And it's divided in months. So there will be many different months with many different type of content from ONF. In particular, the one for SDN infrastructure, which is the one where ODTN falls into, ODTN, TAPI, and in general, anything we talk about here during the call. It closes September the 1st, and the Spotlight will be, I think, in October. So, as you can see, there is a website where we put our dates and stuff like this. This is where you can submit a talk. So if you have anything interesting to talk about during the call, during this showcase of ONF work, this equivalent to ONF Connect, I would encourage everybody to submit a proposal. There will be also a demo side of this, which I will have to. We're still exactly understanding how we want to treat and what we want to do with the demos. For this, but yes, there will also be a demo. So I'll keep you posted also on that. But if anybody has any presentations that they want to share and do to the community, this is where you can submit it. Just an FYI to everybody. If you're interested, just follow that. I am in the committee to analyze the proposal that come in and do the review. But if you're interested in doing something together, drop me an email and we can definitely take a look at that too. Any questions? Okay. Then I would like to give the floor to Arturo from Telefonica that will give us an overview of the current status of the TAPI reference implementation, the hardening steps that are being taken into TAPI, and the testing that Telefonica is doing with TAPI itself, and the list of paths that are prioritized based on Telefonica's requirements. So, Arturo, the floor is yours.
Hi guys, how are you doing? Where to start? As you know, we have been working in TAPI definition for a while already in Telefonica. We are on the road on putting TAPI-based northbound interfaces for SDN domain controllers into production. So these activities now taking place in an internal initiative for Telefonica called iFusion project. Within this iFusion project, we started last year to define a reference implementation document, which will serve the guide for developers and Telefonica operations and testing teams in order to adopt and implement TAPI technology, TAPI information models for the definition for the development of some use cases. So the first thing, Andrea asked us and that we have defined is a set of use cases, so a list of use cases that we are progressively defining in TAPI. based on the current versions of the TAPI. So how was the evolution? The evolution last year started with the version 2.1.2. With that version, we started to define our use cases. We released until now 2 document releases for the reference implementation agreement document, which are telephonic internal documents and define a set of use cases using TAPI. So after the latest, yeah, thank you, Andrea, for sharing this. Yeah, this is the complete set of use cases that are right now defined in our documentation. Okay, so after the release of this second, let's say the second pack of use cases, we call it, we receive a lot of feedback. We receive a lot of comments and questions, which motivate us to to do a more formal way of defining these use cases, taking into account the TAPI experts and externalizing, let's say, the discussion to the ONF. So in that way, what we have been doing in the last 3 or 4 months was to reuse our specification in order to provide a reference implementation agreement within the ONF, which actually covers the same content, the same use cases, but gathers all the agreements and comments that we have achieved during the course of TAPI during the last months. So we are now at the end of this process. So we are quite ready to release the final, let's say, first version of this reference implementation agreement within the ONF. So, as I mentioned, this is the complete set of use cases which are defined in that document and also in Telefonica specification. The idea is that from now we will rely on the ONF reference implementation agreement in order to base our, let's say, implementations in Telefonica. So this is just an evolution. It is not a completely new thing, or there is a complete new definition of the use cases. It's just refinements, some agreements achieved, some clarifications that have been done, and some gaps that they were identified and that has been pushed forward into TAPI definition. So which is the result of this? From TAPI version 2.1.2, we have gone to version 2.1.3. The version 2.1.3, which is also almost ready to be delivered and released. There is already started the process of commit and let's say a release of the version, is going to be the target version for this reference implementation document. So the idea is that this the actual status is that in approximately half a month we will be able to have the version 2.1.3 released in TAPI and the reference implementation agreement document based on version 2.1.3. So this is the high-level description of the situation, or what happened or what's going on TAPI definition in the last months. The reference implementation document at ONF is already there in the wiki, in the repository of documents. The current version is version 0.7. I will release today version 0.8, which has minor comments on one specific use case. And the idea is that we will end up with version 1.0, as I mentioned, in a couple of weeks. We are at the very last step on reviewing the document in order to be formally released. Okay. Maybe some guidance, Andrea, which are you more interested on disclosure or to highlight or comment for ODTN?
So what I was mostly interested in is really understanding also the steps that you guys were taking to ensure that the TAPI implementation is in adherence to this 2.1.3?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a very good question. So far, what we have done is 2 stages of validation. So one is mainly focused on the consistency of the model based on the reference implementation. So what we do is we have a set of Postman scripts for the testing of the northbound interface based on TAPI, grouped by use cases. So one vendor usually typically say, we have this set of use cases ready for being tested in a lab version, because we try to approach this in 2 steps. One is lab version and the second one is production version. So in the lab version, we test the consistency of the model and the actual implementation of the use cases, right? The second phase is more testing with the hardware in let's say a more close to production environment. Usually we did this just with a couple of vendors last year, and the activity usually taking a small portion of the network. So we call it a field trial, and we actually use the same scripts for let's say implementing the use cases, but we also test that the equipment is behaving as expected. We measure timings, we do the typical let's say network validation test regarding the new release of software and the implementation of the use cases. I think for let's say TAPI part, the most interesting one is the initial one, which is duplicated in the second one, which is the script validation. I mean, on that scripts, what we are actually doing is testing 3 things. The first one is the compliance with the RESTconf implementation. So first of all, the Postman allows you to define which are the actual queries that you are going to launch, and also to validate the structure of the response. So when you send a request, you receive a JSON response, and the JSON response should be consistent with the structure of the TAP implementation based on RESTconf. So we are talking about URIs of the API entry points. We are talking about JSON encoding, including name spacing. And I think more or less is that. We didn't test, we didn't extensively test corner cases, for instance. This is something that we are targeting to pursue during this year, to, let's say, extend the test suite in order to test error codes and things like this. The second block of validation is the syntactic validation of the model. So every response is syntactically validated against the model. So we have sort of is JSON schema representation of the PapiJam models, which can be consumed by Postman library in order to validate directly against the model all the responses that are received from the TAP interface. So every time that you do a get operation and you are getting some JSON, this JSON is directly validated against the model, and then you can validate that all the values are actual parameters of the model. So there is no, let's say, extra parameters, proprietary ones, and so on, so that the actual syntax of the attributes are okay, and the consistency of the tree as well. And the third validation, which is in the process to be automated, so it is not yet 100% automated, but partially automated, is a sort of semantic validation, which is based on the API modeling that we are imposing in the reference implementation. We are trying to accommodate some logics in order to be sure that the number of objects that are generated and the logic among nodes, links, connection endpoints, connections, connectivity services are according to the specification that we are proposing in the reference implementation agreement. So which kind of check-ins we do? We are proposing a flat topology abstraction model, so we make sure that it's just a single topology, that there are for a certain type of equipment a number of node representations, so it's a number of RODAMs that need to be represented, a number of transponders that need to be represented, and there is a mapping to the number of nodes that should be represented in TAPI. The same with the interfaces, and then the connectivity logic. So we need to be sure that when you provision a service, the structure of the connectivity instances across the model allows you to, let's say, follow the whole path end to end, from the service interface point to the other service interface point across all the NEPs and FEPs that are present in the TAPI model. So as I mentioned, this is something very extends to test, and we have we have a prototype of the semantic validation tool, which is not finalized, but it is somehow helpful. It doesn't preclude yet the need of a human taking a look into what the answer is, and that human usually has been me from now, but the idea is that we will be able to automate that during this year. So this is the kind of check-ins that we are doing so far.
I see that. That's very, very interesting. There's a lot of checks. Is this something? Just for my personal understanding, is this something that you would be looking at possibly contributing to TAPI itself? I mean, it's a set of scripts.
It's something that definitely we can consider to contribute to TAPI. We didn't do it yet, we didn't analyze it yet, but it's actually a very good idea. There is a couple of activities that are ongoing this year, so we are very close to the definition track, but also in the implementation track, there is an OEF interoperability event this year, which will gather many of the vendors that we are working with. So there is a good opportunity to try to put in practice all these tests, and it might be a possibility to collaborate in a joint project in order to make a complete test suite available for everyone. So yes, it is actually a good idea. It's not that I didn't think about, it's just that the last few months has been very intense in terms of definition. Let's say that from now, next month will be a little bit more on the, let's say, implementation side. So now we are going to track vendors implementation, and from the summer and on, so I think that the summer will be the starting of the testing period, and the second half of the year for sure will be intense in that sense. So it's a good moment for approaching this idea and trying to find let's say an initiative that can be suitable for developing this kind of test suite.
I mean, to me, even in just the status as it is right now, with these two being completely automated and this one being only partially automated, I think it's already very valid because it could prove very easily the capabilities of a given vendor. And having
at least reduce the risk of interoperability in the future. Let's say that not mitigates 100% for it doesn't mitigate 100% it, but at least the initial barrier, which is the protocol and the information model itself, is covered.
Yep, totally. I think this would be very good because it could also show you a level of completeness. Maybe you don't have 100% completeness. Maybe you have like 50% completeness. So I would say that we should try and strive for this. So maybe we need to talk to Kartik about it. Because ONF could also play a more official role in certification about this, because we recently launched a certification program, and that basically does certify hardware, software against a certain ONF protocol, ONF project, or whatever we want. And TAPI being ONF standard, having this code in place that you guys already have could help us certify vendors, and then it's work that it would be less on your plate, on Telefónica's plate. So yeah, I'll let you talk with maybe Karthik about this, but I would say whenever you have a question, just feel free to reach out, and we should try and get this even under the TAPI umbrella.
No, I think it's a very good idea. I mean, you can talk about with Karthik about this, and if you will be able to present us a sort of proposal, we will be quite interested on analyze it. I'm thinking about like for Telefónica, okay, which will be the kind of agreement that we will reach with you in terms of access to this certification program, in terms of contribution or consume of it. So in terms of that sense, which will be the kind of relationship that we will have with you. And for sure, it's something that we can evaluate, because at the same time, we have our team, which is dedicated or targeting, let's say, validation of or certification of the interface, and we should compare the solutions in order to analyze which is the benefits of the possibility that this initiative will bring us.
Yeah, let's also maybe put it this way, that any vendor could come to ONF, and then you would have to maybe pick your vendor and just do a couple of tests and not 15 tests with 15 different vendors. Just pick and choose. Okay. Yeah, so I'll come up with a proposal. I have a few ideas on how this, and also just to be, at least in my mind, the contribution of the scripts is somewhat distinguished from the involvement into the certification program. It could be completely separated. The scripts could be up there, and we could not do ONF certification, or we could have the scripts and ONF certification through them. I'll put together a proposal and discuss it with you, Karthik, and
okay.
Maybe at the future topic call. Okay. The other thing is that I would be interested in hearing from you guys is exactly what went into what Karthik defined hardening of TAPI for production.
Well, first thing, it was to get the level of commitment that we have right now with the vendors in terms of implementing TAPI. So it took us a while, and it is still ongoing. Major risk is to be isolated from the rest of the industry. So we need to share TAPI benefit or promote TAPI as much as possible among operators and other companies that can consume it and implement it in their networks in order to be successful on having, let's say, the scale economy benefit of a standard, right? So if it is just us, which is the ones that are asking for it, it's a little bit difficult. We know that it is not like this. We know that there are some other companies, important companies, that are already taking TAP in production. It is true that maybe we went one step further because we were not satisfied with having just a single vendor implementation, but we needed a common approach for all. So this was the second, let's say, important and hard step to get this level of agreement, and this is what we did with the TAPI implementation, reference implementation. And now is the, well, how to balance the process of definition and the testing of it. So you are completely right. There is a huge amount of work on testing too. So there is also a risk or a hard step there in order to get everything testing and ready to be put it in production, right? So I will resume in industry. Andrea, I'm afraid I will need to leave in a few minutes because I'm being requested for another meeting. That's answering more or less your questions?
Yes, that's perfectly fine. I think we can take this. I think we can take this further. It would be great. I assigned you here a thing to put a link to
okay.
Whenever you release that version 0.8. It would be interesting for us to know, because the next step would be see what is the interest of the community to develop their use cases on top of ONOS. Some of them are already implemented, but some of them aren't.
Okay.
And so we will see that. So thanks a lot, Arturo, for sharing this with us. It's great. Somebody maybe.
Okay. Thank you very much. Then I will drop. Thank you.
Okay.
Bye bye.
Perfect. Ciao, Arturo. Thanks a lot. Okay. So thanks to Arturo. So from my personal perspective, there are a few things, but there are not really many updates to them. The demo for ONOS and GMPI, I'm talking with them, and there's really not that much of a progress in that sense. Before I go first, any other questions regarding TAPI that maybe we can try and answer?
Yes, it was also the purpose of having Arturo is maybe how ODTN maybe can provide some contribution. I don't know with respect to ONOS and with respect to over the current status, how it can be involved in this use case, priority, and so on. I know that there are, as mentioned, Arturo, some ongoing network interoperating tests at OIF. Is there an opportunity for ODTN with ONOS to be there? This is also something that
yes.
This is more on the ODTN side, I know. It's how
I was expecting you told me that somebody would reach out to me about this, but I have not heard anything. So I was still waiting.
Yeah. Yes, it's true that I'm speaking as Nokia Bell Labs. It's not even from Nokia business unit. It's more personally that we are not, I should say, linked to any open source framework such as ONOS. So we are following that. We are effectively, as far as we can, contributing into that. But we, yes, it's true that we may define maybe some, I should say, I'm speaking in the ODTN context and not for Nokia purpose, define some specific use case that will be associated to this TAPI interrupt or TAPI hardening. I think more interrupt test and how the current ODTN framework can effectively be actively participating in this TAPI interrupt testing. But this is the what and the why, but the how I don't know exactly.
Yeah, the how is the main concern due to resources, I guess, because again, as I've stated in the past, the main problem with participating in OIF interoperability testing and stuff like that is that you have to have the stuff on hand and you have to have things implemented before you can start actually testing. And the issue to me is that really we don't have such things ready, meaning that out of the use cases that Telefonica sent out, ODTN supports like 6 out of 20, I think. And I wouldn't be comfortable going to an interoperability test with just those few support cases. So it's either really a prioritization effort of the whole community on who wants to develop something. And if the TAPI people decide that ODTN is the right reference implementation, they can put in also some effort to expand the northbound of ODTN. That is really the issue to me.
Mm-hmm. I see,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. Anything else on this? Okay, so next up, okay, I'll bring this up with Arturo maybe in our discussion. I'll make a point here. Andrea, working. Bring this up with the pickup. Okay. Regarding demo, as I said, still far from the deadline. We have some time, so we'll get to it. We are doing some initial exploration work of what can be done, and it might coincide with also the demo that we could be doing at the ONF Spotlight, as I was saying before. Regarding the fix for intents, I've not heard from Jan. There's been the Easter in the middle and all the coronavirus, so I'll ping him and see what he can do. And same for the GMPY versus the ONOS modeling. I don't have any particular update on that. And for the same reason that they are pushing for the TAPI reference implementation design and stuff like that, I don't have any update either on the TAPI ITF intercompatibility and linkage of all of this. So I don't have any updates on this side of things. Yeah, that was all on my side. I think the contribution from Arturo today was very useful. I'll try to follow up with him on these things, come up with a proposal about how to contribute that code, and also as a next step, how to start a certification program. And see how that goes. I think it would be useful, and at some point it could be used also to certify ONOS or just test ONOS if we just use the scripts. So that would be very good. Anything else that you guys want to discuss today? Anything else that you guys want to bring up?
Andrea, Sudeep here, I could see a placeholder for device description discovery consolidation.
Oh, yes.
Okay. So actually, right, to give you an update, we had partially started work on that, and the strategy also was fixed. I will be able to provide you an update by next call. In the sense, I'll see how to what extent we have done. I think for a couple of classes we had combined, another 2 classes were left out. So I will be probably able to give you an update by next call, definitely.
Okay, that sounds perfect. If you need anything, please feel free to send me a ping on Slack, a ping on the email or whatever. Next call, I expect it to be the week of the 20. Sorry, this is 14th. This is 21st. Around the 20. I think it's the 27th. Monday, the 27th of April.
Okay. I think by that time we will be able to, in the sense, send you a review link itself, I feel.
Oh, that would be great. Perfect.
Okay.
Perfect. Okay. Thanks a lot, Sudeep. That's great. That's great work. And thanks a lot for sharing that update. Okay. Anything else, guys? Okay. Then if not, I hope everybody's safe and the families of everybody are safe at home, and everything is okay. And I'll talk to you in 2 weeks. Stay safe, everybody. Bye-bye. Cheers.
Same
Okay,
to you and
stay safe, you and all. Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye.